in Learning and Teaching, or TILT, TLI certificate program. A little bit of background. This is a new design as part of our Teaching and Learning Innovation series that results in a certificate that you'll have for your file and for your own use. A bit of a rationale behind the design, though, before we get into the content, is that this will be a two-part certificate program, of course, focused on transparency in learning and teaching. We've selected a very small number of sessions that are ongoing, including TILT and relationship-rich education that are designed in this two-part format. One, to provide an introduction to content, and two, to support faculty with the implementation of that content. So today is going to be mostly focused on introducing you to the TILT approach so that you have the information, and then foregrounding implementation. And when we meet again in the next session, next Tuesday, we'll talk about your transparent assignments and give you some very specific guidance on making your assignments more transparent. So informational, and then highly driven by small teaching changes that you'd like to incorporate into your classes focused on TILT. Since we have people both in person and on ground, we'll do a brief round of introductions so everybody knows everyone else, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Of course, I know all of you, but my name is Rusty Carpenter. I'm assistant provost and also professor of English. I've been working with the TILT approach now for probably 5 or 6 years, and in a variety of different formats. I've seen the way that faculty at EKU have incorporated transparent approaches across colleges, and also the benefits of making those small teaching changes. So with that, I think you'll see that I'm very passionate about the transparent approach, but also very excited to see where you can go with this as you're implementing. So we'll start with just some introductions, so name and department, and then we'll have the opportunity to share a little bit more about where you are and what you're hoping to get out of this certificate program. So we're going to start in person. You all know me, and I'm also joined by Professor McCarthy. So and I'm going to pass the catch box. Here's the catch box. This is the fun that you're missing out on if you're joining via Zoom.
Hello. Shannon McCarthy. I am Associate Professor of Graphic Design at the School of Art and Design.
Excellent.
So anything else?
That covers it. So
okay. Oh wait, we're passing
Cassie?
it to you? Oh
yes.
Okay.
Toss it to Cassie. You can't escape the catch box.
Hi, everybody. I think I know most of you all. I'm Cassie Bradley, program manager here in the FCT&L, and I look forward to hearing from you this academic year.
Brad Powell's here as well.
Hello, everyone. I'm over here behind the scenes. Brad Powell, Director of Technology and Media. I'm here myself twice, so it's causing me to go cross-eyed. Media for Null Studio and the Faculty Center for Teaching and Learning.
Great. Thanks, Brad. And we'll go to our Zoom room, and I'm going to go left to right. Kim?
Hey, I'm Kim Kinser. I am the director of our golf management program on campus and in the College of Business.
Excellent. Thank you, Kim. Jamie Marie.
Hi, I'm Jamie Marie Miller, and I'm in the Department of TLEL, work primarily with math education.
Great. Thanks, Marie. Abby.
Hi, I'm Abby Brooks. I'm assistant professor in my second year at Eastern in communication studies in the School of Communication Arts.
Great. Thanks, Abby. Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle Grump. I am the coordinator of the education of the deaf and hard of hearing program over in the TLEL with Jamie Marie. And I don't know, is that it? Been here, this is my 9th year. I don't know. And and I guess I think I do some of this, but I'm not sure, right? Like I think I have worked in the past few years to make my assignments more transparent, and I provide lots of opportunities for do-overs, right? So but I'm thinking maybe they wouldn't have to do do-overs if they knew what they were doing to begin with. We'll see.
Okay. Thanks so much, Michelle. And it sounds like the timing is great for you to be just kind of thinking through the tilt model. It works really well at different phases. Happy to have you here. Kristen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen Campbell. I'm an assistant professor over in the psychology department.
Excellent. Thanks, Kristen. And Sarah?
Hello. I am teaching in the occupational science and occupational therapy department. I am not even a year in, I'm weeks in. And I have made an international move. So obviously we've talked a lot about assessment tasks, where I've come from, and I'm just curious to hear ways to continue improving. I won't be doing anything this semester as a newbie. I'll just be thinking about it probably, but maybe at the end of the semester, we might be coming up with revision ideas. So having a framework to work, I guess, consider it from should be helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sarah. Let's see, Bill.
Hey, everybody. Bill Thornburg. I work with Jamie Marie and Michelle in TLEL. It's my 2nd year at Eastern, and I've sat through a little bit of tilt training with Rusty before during new faculty orientation. And yeah, I'm just interested to learn more.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill. And Devon.
Hey everyone, my name is Devon Muff. I am a 1st-year faculty, but not new to EKU at all. But I am in the press department teaching sports studies.
Excellent, excellent. And thank you again to all of you for joining in this this session, and also the opportunity to work with you as part of a pilot project, which is the certificate design. It's a bit unique compared to other programs that we've offered, but we'll be assessing and inviting input this fall, and we really appreciate the opportunity to work with you. It's great to have so many different perspectives represented. We have multiple departments and even multiple colleges represented in this session. I think that's fantastic. It's a great way to learn about the tilt approach and to get some of the cross sharing that is so incredibly valuable as part of this process. And Kristen and Sarah are both two of our 1st-year faculty, and I think it's fantastic that you're already
and Devon.
And Devon, yes, I've had different access to screens. So Kristen, Sarah, and Devon are 1st-year faculty, and this is a great way to begin thinking about and self-assessing your teaching. So Sarah, as you mentioned, even if you aren't planning on making changes immediately or making changes in the fall, the process of applying the tilt framework to various aspects of your instructional design and your teaching portfolio, that in and of itself can be incredibly beneficial. So I recognize that you're all at different places in your teaching and are coming at this from multiple perspectives. So Brad, I'm going to adjust the slides. I have a pretty good view, but it's not perfect. So we've done our introductions. So I'd like for us to think about some of the ways that we can define student engagement, also some of the barriers to student engagement, and then third, ways that you're intentional in your teaching. So I'm going to pause for about a minute to give you some time to take some notes based on these questions. Then I'll invite you to give some input and insight into these. So we're taking some notes and an initial inventory on these questions. Okay. So what are some of the ways that you're defining student engagement, which is a hot topic right now across the higher ed literature? Sarah?
Can we jump in?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you wanted me to raise hands. So I sort of thought of it around, I initially was like, well, engagement's like that curiosity that they demonstrate. And then I was thinking more around behavior. I was sort of like, actually, it's that speaking and listening, you know, that dialogue, I guess is what that is, as well as their attention.
Okay, okay.
I would say that it is how well the students communicate and communicate in class, are involved in class, like throughout any kind of discourse.
Okay. Thank you, Devon. Bill?
Question one, I mean, I think, yeah, it can be defined in so many ways, but actively and like an active participant in like discussions, work completion, things like that.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you, Bill. Michelle?
So my first instinct is to say, like everyone else is saying, is like, do they look like they're paying attention, right? But I have a lot of experience with my own children who don't look like they're paying attention. That when they were growing up, didn't necessarily look like they were paying attention, and teachers would say, Adam's not paying attention, and it'd be like, but if you call on him, he is paying attention. So I try to not base it on so much the observable, non-interactive behaviors that I see. So I've in my classes, I've tried to set up like this team-based learning kind of thing. So for me, active engagement is, or student engagement is when they're actively participating with one another in the group. So I will say, like today in one of the teams that I was observing, one person was doing all the talking, right? And so the other people really weren't actively engaged. They were just letting this other person do the work. I don't know that it was that they wanted to let that happen, but it was like, well, I have to get in there at some point and say, this is a cooperative activity and everybody should be contributing. So I guess active engagement or student engagement can look different in different settings, but it's certainly not. And I also use a lot of technology, so it's like, well, at least I want them on the right page. I don't want them looking at their Facebook stuff or whatever, you know. So I think it has to be defined really on a activity by activity level, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle.
So Rusty, for me, just like everybody else said, active participation in class, but some of the assignments that I give in class, I think I have seen over, this is my 19th year here, I have seen and learned some of the activities that I've given. I've seen students have more confidence in class and speaking up. And I think with that improved confidence, what I've seen in my classes is I just get so much better classroom discussion. So I think that's been a benefit for me. And I think I've also seen students get closer within the classroom to each other when we have really good classroom discussion.
Okay. Thank you, Kim. What about barriers to student engagement? What are some of the barriers that
I
you're?
think that can come from the interest in the course. I teach this semester, I actually have 3 core courses, and I try diligently to tell my students how these communication concepts not only impacts their work life, but their relationship. So to me, the student engagement is about the relationship to the material, and that's part of it with the barriers as well. So what is it? What am I going to get out of this? How am I going to use this? Why do I need this?
Mhm, mhm. Thank
A
you, Adelaide.
barrier that I'm finding is where I teach math education courses. Math is pretty visceral. You either love it or you hate it. You're scared to death of it. And so I have a lot of seniors who are going to possibly be math teachers. And I have to help them kind of overcome some of their fears as well. And so this idea of student engagement is really important to help them further themselves in the career, because I tell them that you're going into classrooms with elementary children and they're a lot like pups. They sense fear. And so we have to work through our fear and maybe distaste of math. And so I try to get them engaged as much as possible.
Thank you, Jamie Marie.
I think that some of them are less prepared in terms of their knowledge and skills to be successful in college. And so
Okay.
it's a pretty huge barrier.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Okay, we have a few on ground. I need to throw you the catch box.
Hello. So with me, I teach 8 a.m. classes. I don't know if any of you are cursed with that either, but so them actually being awake is a huge barrier for them, just wanting to soak in that information. Also, hunger could be another thing. Again, 8 a.m. they might not be prepared, or they might have empty stomachs. So we actually try to prepare them, or at least have a small budget for them to have snacks. That usually comes out of professors' pockets, but it's available to them. And then also second languages can be tricky sometimes, or what was said before, like them feeling unprepared with the material is definitely something I struggle with sometimes, especially if they have different teachers for intro or something, and trying to make sure we cover everything, but everyone teaches differently, of course, right? So that as well. And just disabilities. So whether it's like a hearing disability or just a learning disability that they might be aware of or unaware of, right? Or they might be aware of, but they don't really want to acknowledge it. Those are all barriers, at least in my area.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, we're tossing the catch box.
So I teach primarily first year students, and I have found that technology can be a blessing and a barrier. I think sometimes students, at least in my class, we need to teach them things like Blackboard and discussion boards and things like that, because they're going to be using it in their classes. But sometimes they get so caught up in just getting through the task of overcoming a new technology that they're not as engaged in what I want them to be engaged in. So it's a fine line, I think, with technology.
Thank you, Cassie. Okay. So the final question, in what ways are you intentional in your teaching? Would anybody want to talk us through ways that you're intentional? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it's fun to toss these things. So how I'm intentional is that maybe to a fault, I try to over-explain some things that, again, if they're coming from, right now I'm working with sophomore studio, so they've already had like an intro class, and this is their second class. Intro was taught by different professors. So I'm trying to make sure I review everything from last fall, because of course they've forgotten everything. It's quite normal, right? So I'm very intentional about reviewing and then talking through. That was one thing when I first started teaching, like I would just breeze through the presentation because it was worrisome to me to get through it and present in front of students. But now I make sure to present. And even though I still might talk a little bit fast, I definitely slow down. We go through something that I think might be a little bit more challenging for them to understand, especially at 8 a.m. And so I'm very intentional about trying to call in different people, making sure everyone has a voice, you know, and acknowledging that even if their answer is incorrect, to be like, you know, that was a good guess, or like be encouraging that way, but also make sure that we find the solution that works best for whatever we're talking about. Yep.
Rusty, for me, a couple of different things I think are intentional teaching. And I'm doing, as you know, we have this professional development series that I'm coordinating here in the College of Business, trying to prepare our students to be career ready when they graduate. And in that class, we do some project-based assignments, and within those assignments, they're collaborative, or we do small team-based things, and that has been pretty successful. I
Okay.
also do something with chapters where I have them do guided questions, that I provide the guided questions. And then when we are talking, that helps facilitate the discussion.
Okay.
But so those are a couple of things.
Okay. Thank you, Kim.
I try to be very intentional in creating like a classroom atmosphere where they know each other, they know each other's names. We do a lot of small group work. I really think it's important that they feel like they're part of a community, and that they all have an opportunity to speak. And so, you know, as Michelle said, maybe like earlier, like maybe they don't like to speak in front of the group, the large group, but a lot of small group work, I think, helps them to develop a voice and to be able to share. So I do a lot of activities like that, especially in the early weeks, so they can get to know each other, and I can get to know them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I would agree with what the previous two people said. I do many of those same things. And then I think one other thing that I do that's just a little bit, I don't know if it's different or not, but is that that I kind of try to relate stuff to what they'll be doing with it in the future. But even though I don't always, like, I have a class that doesn't have all people in education, so they might be, I'm like, how can you apply this language if you're a parent, an aunt, an uncle, you know? So I try to broaden it and ask them to be, that's a question for every chapter. Like, how could you use this information in the future in some way, right? So it could be obvious that you're going to be a teacher, you need to know this information, but if you're not, how can that be useful? And then I have quizzes on some of the chapters, and I have them take it individually, and then I have them take it as a team, and we talk about the importance of, like, recalling the information so that it becomes more solidified, and then they can go back and retake it as many times as they want to get whichever grade they want, because the whole idea of repeated retrieval is helpful in solidifying, because the stuff they learn in the very beginning of the semester, I want them to know at the end of the semester. So so we build on it throughout the semester. So I feel like the best way for that cumulative learning to occur is for them to get the opportunity until they get it right. So that's how I'm intentional. And that's just a carryover from special education, where you sort of teach to mastery.
Thank you, Michelle.
And I try to be really intentional with the content that I teach, so that, you know, they have learning targets. We talk about those, try to be really transparent on what's the content we're teaching, what are you going to do with it, how is it assessed. I give assessment blueprint so that they know exactly what's going to be on the test as well. And like what a lot of people say earlier, I think community building is really important. I've tried to move away from just cold calls where I, you know, ask somebody on the fly and really ask them, you know, think about it for 30 seconds, talk with the shoulder partner, and then share. And I have seen that more people are willing to share because they have that rehearsal of, I'm thinking about it, I'm sharing it with a shoulder partner or a friend, and then I can share with the group. And so that extra time is actually helping out with student engagement as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jamie Marie. Okay, anyone else? Okay, one of the reasons that I like to start with these 3 questions is because these are all areas that we are constantly grappling with as faculty. Student engagement, we've begun to rethink that pretty significantly over the past several years. We've begun to identify specific barriers to student engagement. And with those 2 questions, what can often happen is that we have these aha moments. There are barriers that are unintentional or under the surface in so many of the classes that we're teaching. That is, the time of the class. Shannon mentioned 8 a.m. I think it was an 8 a.m. class. If these issues can also be, they can create frustrations, they can create fractures when we feel like students aren't engaged, but it also leads to questioning, right? So why aren't my students coming to class highly motivated to access this content? Why aren't my students excited? Why don't they want to be future math educators? Why don't they want, and so we ask these questions, and when the answer is, well, I'm just not, it's not where I want it to be, or that level of engagement, maybe the communication or the collaboration, or the shoulder partner activity. Often we think about similar designs as maybe the think, pair, share. Maybe students just aren't sharing, or when you ask that open-ended question, students just aren't very quick to respond. All of those can be frustrating. They can also be disheartening, just as highly trained educators. It can be, those can be moments that are that are disheartening, but they also can prompt some really productive questioning. So why might that be the case? How or in what ways am I being intentional about my teaching or the design of my teaching? Or what kind of barriers might students be navigating as well? And I thought it was really helpful to hear everybody's comments in those areas. It also serves as a good way to filter and to begin to prioritize why you might want to consider transparent designs for your own courses as well, because we have seen some incredible success in these areas. We'll share the slides with you. It looks like my text is a little bit off here, so I apologize for that. But we'll make do with the slides that are on the screen, and I'll share a cleaner version with you so that you can work with the content. The transparency in learning and teaching model, I think, is absolutely fascinating for so many reasons. But one is that it really comes down to being intentional in your teaching. Now, one of the early questions that I got from an EKU faculty member was like, Rusty, do you mean to say that faculty aren't intentional in their teaching? And I thought, well, that's a great question. And my response was really, it depends. But if you think about the ways that you, 1, design your instruction, and then 2, invite feedback on instruction, much of that is driven by our own ideas about teaching, and then the peer-to-peer sharing of instructional strategies, both of which can be highly effective, but they also don't fully consider the true audience of our teaching, which is the student. So you should continue to do both of those, but really Tilt helps to push us productively outside of our comfort zone, to think very specifically and clearly about what it is that we're teaching and why we're teaching it. But then it also helps us to unpack and to understand the why we're teaching it in this particular way. So the Tilt approach can be used in a number of different ways. But the core of the approach is understanding the purpose, the task or tasks, and the criteria. The purpose is the ways in which the assignment offers equitable opportunities for all students. So in so many cases, in starting with the less transparent designs, the original designs, when we really push on that sense of purpose, we can talk around it a lot, the purpose of why we're having students complete this assignment. We talk around that a lot, but it's rather challenging to get to that one sentence statement of purpose for that particular assignment. The tasks, and we'll go into a little bit more depth as well. The tasks will allow you to think about the steps in the process. That is, how students are applying the content that you're teaching in the course. And then the criteria is, this is really focused on the extent to which students, by completing the assignment, have shown that they've successfully learned course content. So you really want to think specifically about the purpose and the task or tasks and the criteria. So today, you'll understand, my goal is to help you understand how you can design transparent assignments, how you can create equitable opportunities for your students. And by equity, I mean the many students that you have in your class, and also to help you understand ways that you can apply this, especially for our second session. So these are our goals for today. Foundations of transparent teaching, just to kind of give you a baseline. Transparent methods will help students. So we're really thinking about our audience. When we teach, it's for students, but this really pushes us outside of that, really outside of our comfort zone, to ask important questions and help students understand both the how and the why they're learning course content. So this will also help you think about the course content itself. So in addition to the assignment, the connection between the assignment and the course content. In addition, you can think about the small yet achievable teaching strategies that can have a really big impact on student learning. You can encourage students how to learn. So there's the metacognitive aspect of this, but also to empower students while acknowledging that their experiences and also their perspectives are valuable. So what they bring to the classroom, what they contribute to either course discussions or interactive moments, problem-based learning, think, pair, share, experiential learning, those experiences are quite valuable. It's the known, if those of you are might be familiar with this, I often talk to students about what information is known and what information is new. We have to have some sort of knowledge to build on, but acknowledging that students can bring this to the class in order to be successful is something that transparent methods do quite well and in some powerful ways. Through our work with the transparent approach at EKU, we've emphasized the teaching and learning experience. This also helps to center assignment design specifically, but also lessons and even courses really on students. So one of the challenges is that I've seen in working with the TILT approach is that when we start to talk about assignments and we ask, how many assignments would you have that you would want to be like, how many of the assignments would be like billboard material? You know, how many are you really proud of? And how many examples would you like to, do you truly think are exemplary of student learning in your classes? And maybe it's a whole bunch and you have a lot of examples that you're really proud of. Like, this is an example, this is an exemplary submission. This is an exemplary response to the assignment. But in some cases, there have been very few. And these are across classes. And when I've asked faculty, well, why might that be the case? Like, what are you truly looking for? And why is it that you have maybe 10 out of 20 or 10 out of 30 example assignment submissions from students that you're really proud of? Why might that be the case? Can you show me a really strong response? The response to me in those cases has been, well, it's, you know, I know a really good assignment when I see it. And I'm thinking, okay, that's a great start. But also, if you are looking for more of those strong assignments, the students don't always know exactly what you're thinking. And even if you've designed a course that incorporates active learning, students are lacking that clarity and the precision in what exactly and the how and the why, what exactly they're doing, how they're going to do it, and why they're going to do it. So it makes for challenging student experiences to really buy in. Not because they're not interested in the content, because they're not quite sure what exactly it is that they're doing and why they're doing it at this moment. So expenditure of energy on both the side of the faculty member and the side of the students is challenging. When students don't have that buy-in, it can create fractures that are avoidable. And by a fracture, I mean those moments of frustration, either on the side of the faculty member or on the side of the students. And that can come through in a number of different ways. It can be body language in the classroom, which suggests a lack of excitement or even a lack of student engagement, that middle question. Or it can result in questions that can be frustrating within that moment. So if you've ever had the student who, maybe the student raises their hand and says, so you want me to do what? Do you want us to do what? Or I don't understand. And so it can help us to navigate those moments by ensuring the clarity and precision in assignment design. Therefore, it can help us to create equitable learning opportunities in our class. We know a lot about our student population, but not all students are coming to us with the same level of knowledge. But students are and can be prepared to learn and to learn how to learn. And TILT helps to bring those students and all students along. It also fosters a growth mindset, but for both students and faculty. For all of you here, this is also a great self-assessment or self-reflection or even scholarship of teaching and learning moment. That is, reflecting on TILT and TILT practices can be great information to use to continue to enhance or develop your teaching. We've seen that it promotes clarity in assignments, but also prioritize learning of subjects and content. For many faculty, it has reduced the time spent either interpreting assignments when delivered to students or in answering emails to students. That is, you're able to channel difficulty into intellectual challenges rather than answering questions about what the assignment is, what students are supposed to be working on or doing. That is, it creates a desirable difficulty for students. And those are the moments that often result in the aha moments, enjoyment of learning, and enjoyment of teaching. But it really channels student energy into focusing on the challenges, the academic challenges of the assignment itself, rather than trying to understand what it exactly is that they're supposed to be doing. So how do we get there? Well, we can understand the impact. So the value, your expenditure of energy is really important to me and to us, and why you're here. Often when we redesign activities, we're thinking that everything has to be done at once. And TILT can both work as a framework for you and self-reflection, but it can also be a very efficient way to redesign assignments in the moment. So you can focus on helping students with an explanation of why you're having them do particular activities. So this can be low stakes like homework or higher stakes like projects or even exams. So that is, it can help you reflect on learning assessment for students in the moment. Is this truly the learning assessment that is best going to showcase student skills or what they have learned or done in the class? Maybe it is, or maybe it is not. So reflective opportunity. This can be frustrating as well, and it can create an unintentional or unintended barrier to student engagement. We can be very honest with this. I know we have multiple course levels represented in different programs here. However, many of our students have no idea why instructors are choosing or the fact that an instructor has carefully chosen an activity. And I know that can be a realization, but it can also be difficult to hear. But that is important information in our design process. For those students who are highly motivated, it's likely that you are going to reach them. But for students who are unmotivated or are looking to do the minimums, this can help bring that expenditure of energy up to encourage those students who are inclined to do the baseline and to get by to do more, because they're able to expend their intellectual energy in meaningful ways. But also it helps students to learn how to learn. That is, they're able to learn, they're able to carry this forward to other courses as well. And then, of course, empowering students' voices. So let's get down to what we can do. You have some of the background information. I'll share the slides and the information here with you. The TILT approach is most accessible when done at the assignment level. And the beauty of that is really that all of you have assignments that you have either delivered to students and that they're currently working on, or assignments over the course of the fall semester that it would be good for you to rethink. The core of the TILT approach really comes down to taking that assignment and designing it with the purpose, the task, and the criteria in mind. And it might sound simple. And what's awesome is that it actually is quite simple. But it's difficult to do. It can be challenging to do. So the framework is not at all challenging. In what ways or how have you explained the purpose of the assignment? That is, what does it teach, or what have you taught, and why is it relevant to students? Many of you, several of you expressed interest in incorporating either skills, transferable skills, or even employability skills into your assignments. Our students are often coming to the university, to EKU, or entering into your programs with a vision of what they'd like to do. That is, they have dreams, and we have dreams for them. So how do we make it relevant to supporting their success, but also fulfilling our lifelong goal of being transformational professors? That is, we want students to be excited about the content, but also for it to have a transformational impact on their learning. How do we get there? We have to be very clear in the purpose of the assignment. What it also helps us do is to understand why exactly at this moment in time, this assignment is most relevant as opposed to all of the other options available. That is, we can think about the collaboration and the goodwill built in so many classes that we were discussing earlier. Perhaps that is one of the intended outcomes. But we want to think very clearly about the purpose. So you want to answer the question of what does it teach and why is it relevant? And you can do that in a number of different ways. One of the challenges here is in the purpose is really getting to that level of clarity in the explanation. What I see over and over again is that it is assignments that are overly verbose. That is, perhaps it has taken a 4 or 5 or 6 or more sentence paragraph, or even multiple paragraphs to get to the purpose. And what it suggests to me is that we're able to talk around the purpose of the assignment, but we're really not getting to the clarity. For example, the clearest way to construct a sentence is the subject, the verb, and the object, right? But many of you are very familiar with Bloom's taxonomy, or the revised Bloom's taxonomy, and the verbs that help ensure that we are very clear in what we're explaining to students, and that this clarity transfers. So if you can identify an assignment that has 2 or 3 paragraphs as an introduction, or takes the better part of a page, 3/4 of a page, to what extent are you achieving clarity in explaining the purpose of that assignment? Okay, so there's a process of questioning and reflection that is really important here. The next is the task. Well, before we go into the task, and I want to keep an eye on the time because I want to get you all of this content so you are able to work with it. Are there any questions about the purpose before we go into the task? So asking, what does it teach and why is it relevant? And really focusing on the verbs. This is an opportunity to be as clear as possible and to bring the verbs to the forefront. And you'll continue to do this as well. The task has been an absolutely fascinating aspect of assignment design and assignment redesign when going from the pre and the post. That is the current assignment and then the transparent assignment, because the task has been historically the area that we have that we have combined a lot of information into a rich description that does not describe in any way what you're asking students to do. That is asking yourself the question of what exactly it is that the students are intended to do, even with some examples, is absolutely critical to their success in getting us to the criteria. But let me talk a little bit more about the task. So in so many of our assignments, we're thinking very big picture. That is, maybe you're asking students to perform some sort of investigation and then to report back. Or maybe you've incorporated some sort of experience or experiential learning component, and then students are reporting back. That is, maybe it's a summary or a reflection, just very general here. But one, we have to ask ourselves if students have engaged in that type of learning before. And if the answer is yes, okay. But often the answer is no. Or if this is, if the way that the assignment is described to them really encompasses what it is that they're supposed to be doing within that moment. So step one is this, if it's two parts, but often we're asking for a multi-component assignment or an assignment that involves multiple steps. And this can involve kind of that, step one and step two. And before you see the assignment, that is before either students submit a draft or students submit the final version, really ensuring that they've taken the steps to show their work in each phase. So one assignment that was absolutely fascinating to review alongside a faculty member several years ago involved performing a case analysis. So the assignment was that case analysis, and the professor had described the case analysis in pretty rich detail. So where it made sense for him, and also it made sense for the colleagues down the hall. But what he realized in really asking what the subtasks were, or tasks plural, were, is that this involved multiple steps. So one, they had to select a project, and two, they had to engage in some sort of analytical framework in order to analyze, and then three, there was the write-up. So his decision was that really this is quite challenging, unproductively so for the students, but outlining a set of 4 tasks that are broken up across 4 weeks, not only added clarity to the assignments, but also added clarity to the class sessions that support each of those component pieces. So this is where a lot of the that transparency comes into play. And I see, yes, Kristen, I know you had to leave, and we'll come back to this in the next session. So Sarah mentioned of the alignment and being cognizant of the alignment and communicating with students, absolutely. And annotations, Michelle to the examples. So it helps the students understand, again, getting back to the how and why. I will say that the clarity that you can achieve in the task or the tasks can enhance communication, and it can reduce barriers between faculty and students, but also in the process allow you to spend more time on those amazing aha moments in the class than explaining assignments. I would also argue, and I provide all of you, to report back on this experience, that intellectually you can design more challenging experiences when assignments are designed transparently. That is, you've explained the clear purpose, but done so with a level of concision and precision in the communication. So foregrounding the verbs and processing what exactly it is that you're teaching or the assignment teaches. And then you've also clearly outlined the task or the tasks, depending on the assignment. Okay. I appreciate the comments in the chat as well, and I would just it's absolutely aligned and designed to do these things and to help with these shifts in teaching. The third component is really thinking critically about the criteria for grading. So again, you can use these as a filter to self-assess, or the purpose, the task, and criteria for many faculty become headings or subheadings, or some faculty have incorporated variations. So it can really be that transparent and that deliberate. I've seen faculty who are successful in both designs. The third component involves the criteria. So this is the criteria for grading, and you can adapt this in a number of different ways, but having a rubric, alternatively a self-assessment or even a peer assessment component can encourage reflection and even future growth in that area as well. What this does, being very clear in the criteria for grading or the criteria for success. So how do I know as a student if I am prepared to, if I'm entering into the assignment with all of the information that I have in order to be successful? And if I can, and if I am, I'm going in with a much higher level of confidence than I would if I'm second guessing myself. And if I'm second guessing myself, I'm spending my time and energy in that way rather than focusing truly on the assignment and diving into the assignment confidently. You'll see that students are willing to be more creative and more innovative and even push some boundaries productively in the assignments. However, this is a really interesting area that can relate to not only kind of the published grading scale, but what does it mean to be successful on an assignment? And some students will really worry about the grade that they're going to get. And sometimes that can inhibit the kind of learning that makes our teaching so enjoyable. So helping students to understand what they'll need to do up front can help them build momentum. And in many cases, that's a rubric, but that self-assessment and peer assessment or variations of that can help ensure that the criteria are set from the very beginning. What this does on our side, though, is it helps to ensure that we have been clear in what we anticipate to happen in this assignment. So those outcomes are clear, and the ways that students can show that they have been successful in learning and delivering a high quality and thoughtful assignment is clear as well. And so sometimes like, well, you could do it this way and this way, but that's really not helping to ensure that the roadmap for learning is both scalable and achievable for students. So TILT really comes down to ensuring that these three elements or these three sections are clear, enhancing the communication to students, and also ensuring that we are being concise and specific in the ways that we're designing our assignments. This is also iterative, and you can self-assess along the way. And for those of you who are really wanting to use this as a moment to think about what you could do in the future, you could also put this structure up alongside some of the assignments that either you're using or some of the ones that you'll be using this fall. And again, the design of this slide is a little bit off, but to go more deeply into the purpose, sharing the rationale for the assignment with the students, incorporating that as a moment in your teaching, but also really being clear on what you anticipate to be the learning gains and what students should expect there. For many of you, and I know many of you and have worked with many of you in so many different ways over the years, I know that you are very highly skilled educators with a great deal of experience. What I often encourage people to do when they're thinking about TILT is to also think about the kinds of moments that will encourage some really positive reflection. When students have left your class 5 years from now, or maybe longer, what are the assignments that they're really going to remember for positive reasons? Because it helped shape the way that they think. And you can apply this to the entire course as well. So we're really thinking about the knowledge students should retain from the assignment, what skills they should be able to perform, and how the assignment helped them to practice those skills, but also how these will be essential in students' lives later on, either in their career at EKU or beyond. Some more information about the task, those productive steps that students can follow, but also counterproductive steps that students should just avoid. Like these are the dead ends that we don't want to see late in the process, right? Focusing on the description of the task, what should be the first thing, the next thing, and so on. This helps students avoid wasting time. You don't want to tell students exactly what they have to do, but the discovery process is often driven by clarity and confidence building. Okay. And here you have some additional background on the criteria. So what is the guide that we can use to ensure that students are successful and that they have examples when possible? But also, how could they use the criteria when they're working on the assignment to determine and self-reflect whether they're on track? Even think about checklists. Some of you might have read the Checklist Manifesto and other books on checklists, which I'd recommend, but that can ensure that students are expending their time on deep learning experiences as well. Small teaching, just as we conclude for part 1 today, don't feel like you have to take on everything. TILT is really valuable as a self-reflective opportunity. So asking those questions as we've asked, getting back to some of the barriers and reducing the barriers that can be frustrating or lead to a lack of engagement. This process helps us to take on teaching as incremental. Don't try to do everything at once. You might tilt one assignment or develop a plan to tilt one assignment, which we'll be doing, and to improve both instruction and the design of that particular assignment. But also it helps with intentionality because we really do have to go one by one and step by step to answer those questions. So, and we're not always doing that on our own. As skillful and as accomplished as I know that this group is, we need those we need those barriers that channel us in certain directions productively. What I'll do is share several examples, and what I'd like for you to do is to think about the more transparent and the less transparent assignments, and to begin thinking about your own assignment as well. So you'll have some homework. I know that we're at the 12:30 mark, and I don't want to keep you. So I'll give you your homework via email, but you have a number of tools to use. And what I'd like for you to do is select one assignment that you would like to think about and discuss for next time, and come back next Tuesday prepared to discuss that assignment and the ways that you can apply the TILT framework to that assignment. Now, some of you might want to be overachievers. You might want to say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and tilt this assignment, but you truly don't have to. What I'd like to do is spend some time helping you understand how to apply the tilt framework to design transparent assignments. So you have a toolkit here along with a set of questions to help guide your next step, purpose of the assignment, the task, and the criteria. The matrix will also help you to prioritize. So even working through the matrix and bringing the matrix along with the checklist can help you get started in that process. So that is where I will pause for today. So hopefully you feel like this gives you a good core set of information. I know that we're at time. I'm happy to hang for another few minutes or so if you have questions, but I will follow up with your homework packet later today, and also the assignment for the 5th, which is when we'll go into more depth about TIL. So thank you again, and I'll monitor the chat. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks, Bill. And I'll be back in touch with some more instructions. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.